Hey guys, welcome back to Art with Jenny. And today I wanted to talk about tips for creating and publishing a children's book. So I do have a few tips for you. First, I wanted to show you I just recently published my book, Back in Time. It was very exciting. This took me 3 years to put together. So I just wanted to give you some tips for your children's book that you want to or are creating. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so here's the first tip. Write your story. So, writing your story is the most important part of your book. So, please don't rush this part. And don't write it in just one sitting. I mean, if you do write it in one sitting, fine, but then go back to it, add to it, think out different scenarios, show it to your friends, show it to your child, get other people's opinions on it. I tend to use Open Office for writing my stories, but I've also just used the notepad on my phone. That works just as good. Um, but yeah, writing your story and taking the time to do that is going to dictate the rest of your book. If you have a solid story, then you have something really beautiful to build off of. So don't rush this part. All right. Number two tip. Choose your book size and your platform and have an idea of this before you start your layouts. So there are many different platforms for self-publishing we're talking about here that you can go on to publish your book. You can go through Amazon, you can go through Barnes and Noble, BookBay, Lulu, Blurb, Ingram Spark, and you can even go on and sell your book on Etsy. So Amazon does have most of the book market share. So that is like my number one right now is Amazon. Um, I also published my last book on Barnes and Noble. But for this book, I really want to open up and I would like to publish my book on other platforms as well. Keep in mind, all the platforms have their own sizes. So you need to look these up ahead of time. For example, for my book Quack in Time, originally I did all of my illustrations 10 by 8. These big illustrations I did in acrylic and ink, and I photographed everything. I got it ready. I edited everything. I got ready to put up on Amazon. And then I realized they did not have that size. And I was devastated. I had to go back. I had to do so much extra work to edit everything and make it a smaller size. And I ended up going with their size 8 1/4 by 6, which was a lot smaller than I originally anticipated. So please go on and make sure that the size that you want for whichever platform or platforms works with those platforms. That they have those sizes. So one of the popular sizes that I saw when I was doing research on each of these platforms was 8.5 inches by 8.5 inches, and also 8 inches by 8 inches. That was a very common size, and I feel like it's a nice big size for a children's book. So really look into that size if you want a nice big size for your children's book. Look into 8.5 by 8.5. And you can always size that down to an 8 by 8 book. So keep those things in mind. Some of them you have to pay for. I believe Lulu, for their expanded distribution, it's $4.99, and Instagram Spark, just to set up your account, is $49. Um, but I have read that they have their own. They have like their own markets. So there's a lot of these different websites that kind of tailor to different markets. So do some research on that. Um, so yeah, so let me show you some Amazon sizes here. So if you go to kdp.amazon.com, you can look up trim sizes and bleeds and margins, all that good stuff. So here I would like to show you here website. And so on Amazon, you can do a paperback or a hardcover. But keep in mind with their hardcover, you have to have over 75 pages, which most likely you're not going to have that for a children. Probably want to stick to their paperback. But there are other websites like Barnes and Noble that do offer paper book for children's books. And if we scroll down here, you can see there's a chart here for page size with and without bleed. So just to clarify, a bleed is something that like a picture that goes off of the page, and when it gets printed, it's going to be cut right down the margin here, and the picture, a little bit of the picture will be cut off, but you have it set up this way. So that is a bleed. And then this image does not have a bleed. So this image fits perfectly on the page right here, but it's considered without bleed. So if you scroll down, you can see some of their common page sizes here. And this is the 8.5 by 8.5 inch size that I was talking about. So you just want to make sure that you are picking size that correlates with it. So if you just look across the chart here, this is the page size with a bleed. And since I will be using a bleed with my next book, this is the size that I'm going to need. It's 8.625 inches by 8.75 inches. And this could change over time because Amazon does update their sizes every once in a while. So just make sure you go on and check your sizes. So when I create my layouts, I'm going to use this exact size for my layouts. And keep in mind, some of these sizes, like the one I used for my Quack and Time book, this 8.25 by 6, since it was a smaller size and not as of a common size as the other one, I was not able to put my book in expanded distribution. So that is something that I wanted to do this time. So I'm going to use the 8.5 by 8.5 size. So just keep that in mind when you're choosing your sizes. And I just took a couple screenshots from Barnes and Noble's website. They have an 8.5 by 8.5 size. And you can see some other really great trim sizes here. And they also have an 8 by 10. I noticed with a lot of the websites, there wasn't as many landscape options as I would have liked, but the 8 by 8 will do. So just make sure you look ahead of time. There is a 11 by 8.5. So just make sure you plan this out ahead of time because this can make your layouts look drastically different. All right, so now we're kind of going into our third tip, which is creating your layout. So there's many different programs out there that you can use to create your layout. Here are some programs that I like to use. I like to use Canva because it's free. It's great just to go on and play with different layouts in Canva. They do have pictures in Canva. Just be careful that you don't publish these photos unless you have the rights to do so. You just don't want to get into any trouble with that. But also Photopea is free. Photopea is just like Photoshop. You can do a lot of photo editing in it. You can set up your layouts in there. You can do photo retouching in there, and it's free. It can be a little slow at times because it does have ads on the sides because it is free, but it's a great program. And then also we have Krita. I just started using Krita for my next book because you can paint in it and do all kinds of cool stuff in there. So right now I'm getting my layouts to the right size in Photopea, and then I'm opening them up in Krita, and then I'm really, developing the story in there and creating some artwork in there and painting and drawing. So yeah, use your favorite program. And you know what? It's a learning process. So you might not get it right the first time, but that's why you learn and then you do it better next time. And that's why I'm sharing these tips with you. Because these are things I wish I would have thought about when I did my first book. So going into my second book, I have a little bit more knowledge, and yeah. So yeah, good luck on creating your stories and your book. Thank you for listening on my channel today. Have a good one. Bye.